the health care bill that became law in March this year, had been debated in Congress and voted on many times for about a year. And that whole process started after a presidential election year in which candidates called for health care reform and debated the issue. And still, after all that, you had the Tea Party yelling that the reform was being shoved down our throats by a government that didn't want to have any debate on the issue. Oh, a year of debate in Congress, lobbying by special interests, and public town hall meetings wasn't enough for you? You want big reforms to take more time? May I remind you, Tea Party, that you also claim that you love the Founding Fathers. You claim you want this country to go back to the government we knew in the days of the Founding Fathers. All right. Let's try that on for size. Dial it back to 1802. Then the big issue wasn't health care reform. It was an overhaul of the entire federal judicial system. On January 6th, 1802, Senator Breckinridge of Kentucky introduced the bill to overhaul the judiciary system. The Senate debated the bill for 11 days, not 11 months like with health care reform. At that point, Vice President Aaron Burr tried to get them to allow a compromise plan to be introduced, but it was shot down. Boom! February 13th, the Senate passes the bill. Boom! March 3rd, the House passes and it becomes law. Boom! Less than 2 months from start to finish. Boom! That's Founding Father style. Oh, you want a town hall meeting on a big issue? No dice. The Founding Fathers weren't much on town hall meetings. So how did the Jeffersonian Republicans get that judicial system overhaul through so quickly and without compromise? Are you thinking they must have had a huge supermajority to get through the Senate so fast? Actually, their party had a majority of just 4 senators. They had 18. The Federalists had 14 senators. And their majority on that issue was even smaller because one of the senators had quit and hadn't been replaced. Another one was voting with the other side. So they had a majority of 1 senator on this issue, and that 1 vote difference was Senator Bradley of Vermont, who wasn't even in Washington for the debate on the measure because he was home in Vermont taking care of his sick wife. Now, obviously, that's one politician John Edwards never saw as a role model. But Senator Bradley shows up just as they're taking the vote. It passes by 1 vote. Boom! You get a whole new judicial system in America. That's the Founding Fathers, baby. Now, I realize you might be wondering, why didn't the Federalists just filibuster this issue? Why did they let the Republicans win such a big legislative victory by a single vote in the Senate? How could this be? After all, when Scott Brown became the 41st senator this year, everybody in the Tea Party was yelling that as the 41st vote, he in the Senate, he could stop anything the Democrats wanted to do. Yes, he could stop them. Okay, some history facts. The filibuster is not in the Constitution. It's not. Not in any of the amendments either. You know how conservatives like to carry around a little copy of the Constitution in their pocket? I like to mention that they always carry it. Do you know why they always carry around a copy of the Constitution? Because they still have not had time to read it. Okay, so no filibuster in the Constitution. It's part of the Senate rules agreed upon by the senators. Now, when that very first Senate met in 1789, they voted on Senate rules, and they voted down a proposal to allow anything like a filibuster or anything like needing more than a simple majority to end debate in the Senate. In that very first Senate in 1789, almost half the senators were actually Founding Fathers, the same guys who wrote the Constitution in Philadelphia. Actual Founding Fathers. The real deal. Now, they voted no on a filibuster. No way. Okay, 17 years later, in 1806, the Senate did vote a rule change that made it possible to have a filibuster. But those senators had only 2 guys who were also Founding Fathers, 32 senators who were not. And no senator even talked about pulling a filibuster until 1837 when Senator William King from Alabama said he would filibuster rather than let the National Bank get a new charter. King was no Founding Father. He was a baby when the Founding Fathers wrote the Constitution. Nearly all the senators in 1837 had not even been born yet when they wrote the Constitution. So listen up, Tea Party. You can say we need it to be like the Founding Fathers. Okay. Or you can say 41 Republican senators should block the entire Democratic agenda. You can't say both. Pick one and get on with it. Here's something else about 1802. When Jefferson and his Republican allies in Congress overhauled the entire judiciary system, they knew that the Supreme Court, which had judges appointed by Federalists, the other party, might rule against the new law. So they passed a law, and this is a true story. They passed a law which canceled the Supreme Court session for about a year while the new law took effect. They just canceled the Supreme Court session. Boom! It would be like in 2000 if the Clinton administration realized that the Supreme Court was going to rule against Gore and in favor of Bush in the election, so they canceled the Supreme Court until Gore took office. Wow. Republicans would go nuts. But that's what the Founding Fathers would have done. Another Founding Father was John Adams. He had something called the Alien and Sedition Act. Now, here's the thing about all those Tea Party rallies. All those times the town hall meetings were interrupted a year ago. Well, if the John Adams and the other Founding Fathers had been in the White House, all you Tea Party members would have been thrown in jail. Boom! Sounds kind of un-American, doesn't it? Go to jail because you protested a rally. But that's how the Founding Fathers would have done it. Oh, and back to that overhaul of the judiciary system in 1802. When political opponents tried to offer amendments to the legislation, or tried to slow the legislation, President Thomas Jefferson dismissed them as, and I am quoting here, wayward freaks who now and then disturb operations. Wayward freaks. Can you imagine if President Obama had said he would ignore the Tea Party because they were a bunch of wayward freaks? Oh man, they get angry. They'd probably wave their guns around. They'd probably paint Hitler mustaches on Obama posters. And you know Glenn Beck would say Obama was Hitler. Good thing stuff like that never happens in America. Actually, come to think of it, maybe the Tea Party would actually like it. Maybe they would wear the phrase wayward freaks as a badge of honor. Let's see. Let me just get my iPhone out here. Yeah. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah. It's got a Tea Party app. I can just dial up the Tea Party. But first, let's check. It's got an app. Let me see if the Tea Party would like to be called wayward freaks. Okay, let's give it, we'll just shake it up. Shake it up here. Okay, we got an answer. Ask again later. It always says that. All right, I just have to call them and find out. Let's see. Got the number here on my iPad. Oh, I know it's not a touch-tone phone. Don't worry. It's got a touch-tone app. You just bang the phone the number of times you want to press the number. It's fine. All right, let me just dial up the Tea Party here. Dial them up. All right. Wow, these are numbers fairly long when you got a rotary dial. Can we just shorten down the numbers a little? Okay.
You have reached the voicemail of the Tea Party. This is not an encouragement to commit violence. To hear this message in Spanish, hang up now and go back to freaking Mexico. To hear the Tea Party principles, press 1 now. This is not an encouragement to commit violence. To reload your gun, press 2. This is not an encouragement to commit violence. To leave a message, press 3 now. To speak to a person, press 4 now.
Oh, good. Yeah, a person. What do you mean, good morning? I was just outside. It's late at night. You're in India? The Tea Party receptionist is in India? Oh, that's a good point. Hey, listen, can you take a message? Okay. You are all a bunch of wayward freaks. That's right. Wayward freaks.